Welcome to Warriors at Work. This is Jeannie Coomber, your guide and host. Warriors at Work is a place where everyone in the workplace can come together, gain insight, encouragement, tell stories, connect, and share wisdom. We are a place of like-minded people at different stages of life, all coming together with a shared interest of enlightening and inspiring one another. If you're interested in going from the predictable to the potent, and you want to find your warrior magic, step into the journey with us. Welcome to Warriors at Work. So welcome to Warriors at Work. This is Jeannie Coomber, your guide on this journey. So we hear lots of stories of layoffs, furloughs, and the struggles from just a wild 2020. What we don't hear enough about are stories of leaders who use the layoff experience to fuel a shift into purpose and power. Today is a story from my next guest, Marissa Fernandez, who did just that. Her experience in a layoff moved her to a place where she is living, learning, and lifting others from her place of genius. So let me tell you a little bit about Marissa, and then we're going to get into it. So Marissa is a coach, a consultant, and a seasoned marketing executive. She currently coaches private clients to define and accelerate towards their own definition of success in work and life. She also advises and consults with companies on marketing and brand strategy and serves as a performance strategist for Garnet Consulting. Her marketing experience ranges across multicultural marketing, CPG marketing, and sports marketing. Her superpower is her unique ability to empower others to recognize and harness their strengths, both as individuals and high-performing teams. She recently served as Drive Shack Inc.'s first chief marketing officer, where she oversaw all their marketing, community relations, and PR efforts for the growing brand. Prior to that, Marissa spent over 5 seasons at the National Football League as vice president of marketing and fan development at the NFL. She led fan acquisition, marketing for the league's major tentpole events, like Kickoff, Pro Bowl, NFL 100, as well as cause programs like Place 60, Inspire Change, My Cause, My Cleats, as well as U.S. Hispanic marketing. Besides being an extraordinary leader and a marketer, she also loves to teach and learn. She's guest lectured at NYU, Columbia University Business School, and has delivered talks at several industry panels and conferences. And in 2019, Marissa was honored as a Synopsis Top Women in Sports, celebrating the top 100 female trailblazers in the industry. Also in 2019, she was named one of 30 Latinas of Influence, presented by Hispanic Lifestyle magazine. Personally, Marissa is also an all-around kind, energetic, and generous spirit who has this incredible mind. And I'm so grateful to have this conversation with you today, Marissa.
Thank you so much. What a wonderful introduction. I need you as my hype woman.
I'll follow you around. So let's get into your story, Marissa, because when I think of you and everything that you shared with me, yours truly is a story about stepping into purpose and power when a pause was literally thrusted upon you. And as I was reading through your bio and knowing a little bit about your background, it's very clear to me you were on this corporate career trajectory and yet we're having huge success. But you'd share something with me when we were talking prior to this podcast where you said, there was just something missing within you that kept you from stepping into your dream life. And it really all changed when you had that layoff. So I'd love for you to tell us your story.
Yes, happy to. So I started my career as an assistant brand manager at Procter & Gamble, straight out of undergrad. And right from those early days, I viewed my career as this straight and upwards ladder. Much like a student goes from first grade to second grade and all the way on up through 12th grade. For me, I was an ambitious and talented assistant brand manager, and I was on my way to chief marketing officer. That was just the path that I was on. And I climbed and climbed, and I learned and learned, and I had a lot of success. I was promoted many times. I delivered great results to the business. I built talented teams around me. I also let work take up way more than its fair share of time and headspace in my life over the years. I certainly have spent time with friends and family and hobbies, but work had this way of filling in any and all open space. And I operated that way for 15 years and got to this pinnacle of chief marketing officer that I had been so diligently marching towards. And spoiler alert, I didn't miraculously become happy or fulfilled on that first day at work. And I had been running this race for so long, and I didn't feel this joyous relief of getting to the finish line. Instead, I felt stress and anxiety. And within the first few weeks, the culture didn't really feel like fit for me. And I started questioning everything, my abilities, my path, my whole identity. And then, like you said, in March, my role was eliminated completely unexpectedly, laid off for the first time in my life, unemployed for the first time in my life. And I just felt totally lost. Like, who am I if not a marketing executive? I felt embarrassed to not be able to answer the question, what do you do? I really did. But in addition to the pity party that I was throwing myself, I also experienced an unexpected emotion of relief. And that feeling of relief was the exact clue that I needed to ditch this ladder that I had been so steadfastly ascending and just figure out what it is I really wanted to be doing. I now call it this pause button that was thrust upon my career that I would have never pushed for myself. But in hindsight, I really needed it, and I'm grateful for.
Wow. So ditch the ladder. And when you said, I'm going to ditch the ladder, like, what was your next move?
Yeah. So to be honest, I let myself wallow a bit. I listened to an unhealthy amount of true crime podcasts. I slept in. I took long, aimless walks around Brooklyn. I shared my sob story with my family. And can you believe this is happening? And a few close confidants, though. Honestly, I was too embarrassed to tell a lot of people what was going on. And I bring that up because I don't think people should feel ashamed about taking a break and decompressing when they're in a situation like that. And I'm as type A, results-oriented, action-oriented as they come, but I wasn't physically or emotionally ready to dive into the deep end on like, what's next right away. So I did allow myself to just chill. And eventually I read 2 books that really changed my life and helped me find my course. The first one is called Designing Your Life by Dave Evans and Bill Burnett. And in it, the exercises encouraged me to reflect on moments of my own greatest fulfillment and impact and engagement. And that's when an invisible thread that has woven through my career and my whole life suddenly became visible. And that was coaching. And as I tracked back on my peak life experiences, so many of them had nothing to do with marketing and had everything to do with coaching and developing talent and mentoring and advising and instilling confidence in others. And I was like, wow, I'm already doing this. And the second book that was really transformative is a book called The Genius Habit, written by Laura Garnett. And in a similar vein, Laura's book guides the readers to uncover their unique superpower, genius, as she calls it, and their purpose. And again, this idea of coaching for me was undeniable, which is pretty cool. I had never worked with a coach before. I didn't know any coaches personally, so I had my work cut out for me, but I was really motivated and really curious to learn more. So the last step I'll share after doing this reading and introspection, and I know we'll talk more about this later, but I started telling people what I was up to and that I was exploring this space. And this served many purposes. I got validation from the people closest to me, most of whom's reactions were, of course you should go be a coach. And I also got introduced to professional coaches. It's how you and I met. It's how I've met many other coaches who've helped me see how to make a profession out of it. And I even got work out of it, which I wasn't expecting. But I connected with Laura Garnett, the author of The Genius Habit, and we built a relationship. And she asked me to join her team. So that part was tremendously useful as well.
Wow. I was curious too, and I never asked you this. So when you found your way into coaching, did anybody push you towards, well, just go and work in a talent organization or be a part of
Mm-hmm.
a human resources or chief people officer role? Because a
Mm-hmm.
lot of times, they pull in people with business line expertise. Were you pushed at all in that direction?
Yes. And I wouldn't say, people said, go do this, but people suggested that I learn about it. And I was very open to that. I think that allowing myself to be open-minded and curious and not so hell-bent on this is the title, this is the, like, that's what I was before. And now being more flexible and just thinking, how can I live a life that's in line with my genius and purpose and making an impact on the world and working with people who share my values. If that can happen in an HR role in a company, I'm open to learning too. So in this networking process, I not only met with coaches, I met with several HR people too, people who consult, people who work within companies. And maybe a role like that is part of my future. I haven't ruled it out. I do think coaching seems more squarely in the near term what's best for me. But I think there's a lot of ways to put my purpose and genius into action. I think that's true for everyone, by the way. So it's a good insight to like be open. You don't have to have this narrow definition of like, this is the North Star and come hell or high water, here I go. Maybe some people have that, but I've found a lot of freedom and energy in not having that or letting go of that.
It's very interesting too, this notion of being open-minded and curious, particularly if you're A-type and you're used to production, driving. I would imagine there were these key influential people in your life, whether it's how you were raised or people just showing up in your space, because we're going to get into networks in a second. But how did they influence that? But also remind you that this is an opportunity to be open-minded and curious and fight that inclination to go get something right away. And, you have to be active, you have to be out there. I would imagine you were constantly playing with both sides of the equation. So I'd love to hear about some of those influential conversations and people in your life.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel so tremendously grateful that I have a lot to point to in terms of people who've influenced me. First and foremost, my wonderful and incredibly supportive family. My parents instilled in my siblings and I from a very young age the importance of working hard and striving for success and being involved. I was an athlete and I did the drama club and volunteered and I dabbled in a lot of things, and open-mindedness that actually became more narrow in my career. And I'm revisiting what was a fun part of my youth, is being able to do so many different things and explore different avenues to make an impact on myself and others. And my parents, I have an identical twin sister and a younger brother, and we're all honor students and we all went to Ivy League schools and we now all have successful careers and lives. And that is truly a testament to the values that my parents instilled in us and the unending support and commitment that they've offered to each of us. And I feel now so motivated and inspired to continue to make them proud. I also am a very new aunt. My nephew came into the world this April, who I adore and feel very inspired to serve as a role model to him. So that's definitely a source of motivation. And as I also reflect back on my youth, my experience playing sports contributes now to my drive and motivation. I think as an athlete, I learned about the importance of things like really focused practice and commitment and kind of leaving it all out on the field, resiliency. So many of those qualities, all learned playing sports, have now shaped the way that I lead and live and fuel my motivation. And the last thing that I'll say, and you mentioned this too, beyond my upbringing, I have this amazing roster of mentors and mentees who've served me so well in so many ways. And I wish I was given the advice when I was a teenager to start acquiring mentors and nurturing those relationships. luckily I did start more thoughtfully and intentionally building mentor relationships probably in my mid-20s. And that's been such a major accelerant for my career success and my motivation.
Mm. And when we were talking, you have kind of like a systematic, strategic networking approach that I
Yes.
think will be fascinating to
Yes.
share. So talk to us about your Marissa's networking. All right, everybody get their pen and paper out.
Yes.
Follow this structure.
Yes. I geek out over this. It's one of the things that I'm most proud of. It's one of the things that I've recommended others to do who are feeling similarly challenged right now. And really, anyway, for me, so I lost my job. And in a way, I felt like I lost myself. And while I was reading and doing this deep inner work through these books and figuring out who I am and what I want, I also felt the strong desire to bring people in the tent with me. For those that know me, I'm an extreme extrovert. I get all my energy from others. I love sharing stories and being with others. And so living alone during a pandemic, coupled with not having a job or coworkers anymore, I was like on an island. I was feeling really isolated. And so I needed to get others back in my life. And I needed to be really intentional about that desire. And so I wrote a list of everyone from all chapters of my life with whom I wanted to nurture a relationship with. And I categorized them into buckets. Like for me, mentors, industry connections, coaches, mentees. I have a whole list of buckets. And then I categorized them again into tiers. So there's a small group of my tier 1 contacts that I connect with monthly. And then there's tier 2 contacts who I contact every 60 days, and tier 3 every 3 months. And this is all in an Excel sheet, and there's a formula so I can see it lights up in green when it's time to reach out to someone. And I have exactly. I have a cell for notes and ideas on what to reach out to them on. So if it's you, Jeannie, I'll reach out and ask how your podcast is going. And to my friends who are dealing with the joys of virtual learning with their kids at home, I can check in with them on how that's going. And I follow everyone on LinkedIn and support and stay top of mind by participating in conversation there. I offer my help as often as I could by making connections and introductions or consulting or coaching services where appropriate. And so this whole system gave me so much energy and enjoyment, especially during this crazy year. And, I've spoken to so many people who've said that their relationships have suffered as a result of the pandemic and the year that we've had. And based on the system, my network, I feel, has never been bigger or stronger. And if I were to summarize the keys to success in this, it's 3 ingredients: intention, discipline, and authenticity. So I set a very clear intention to grow and strengthen my network. I had the discipline to create and execute this detailed plan around nurturing the network. And then the most important ingredient, authenticity. Each conversation that I've had or email that I've sent or post that I've made has been super personalized and authentic. It's not robotic in any way. It's not a, auto-generated email. It's me. It's coming from my heart and my thoughts. And I think that's been the most magical and impactful and important piece of it all.
One thing I also love about this is you are an incredible listener. You're very, very attuned to the texture of conversations. While I know you have this very formulaic approach, your natural ability to sense is also not lost in the conversation. And I'm highlighting that because I think that too can be a part of this. If anybody's listening to this and they're going through a similar experience and you're going through your own self-contemplation and self-evaluation, that is a strength to be able to sense and attune yourself to where the other person is. And you have that natural ability, Marissa. So just highlighting that. And I think that could be pulled into kind of your superpowers. But your approach is unbelievable. Like I just took a page of notes. I was like, my God, it's brilliant. It's brilliant. You might be able to patent that idea and put it out there. Like
Yes.
move like Marissa.
Ooh.
I like it. You coined it here first.
Ooh. Yes.
When we also talked about doing a podcast, you said to me, I am not outsourcing my life and decisions to others. And that was a key idea, almost like a mantra. So say more about that.
Yes, I would love to. And transparently, I'm outing myself here because I know it will help hold myself accountable, and I hope it may help others who are wrestling with a similar challenge. And I'll give some context. I believe people's greatest strengths have a dark side to them if exercised too frequently or taken to an extreme. So, from my crazy move like Marissa action plan that I'm this master networker and connector, and I build genuine relationships easily and have created this great network. And it sounds great, right? It's like it's positive, but here's the dark side that I've seen in myself. I became so reliant on this awesome and powerful network of people in my life that I lost track of my own inner compass. Instead, my decision making, particularly as it related to my career, was so largely informed by people in my network who, by the way, I love and respect and admire greatly and believe and know that they have the best of intentions. And I'm thinking, well, what would they say? What do they think I should do? I was just seeking this external validation way too often. And instead of listening to myself, and to be honest, this is something that I'm still working on, not outsourcing. It's in part why I have a coach myself. So I am a coach, but I pay a coach to help me with this so that I can be the author of my own life. I can be in the driver's seat, whatever analogy you want to use. I know that that's when I feel my best and most confident and most aligned. And so while taking input from mentors and others is great and advised, and I'm going to continue to do that, it's getting and staying in tune with my own inner knowing and inner compass. That's an ongoing practice and commitment that I've made.
That is so beautiful and so important to accentuate in this discussion, because I think of myself and lots of people I speak to. It seems to be more obvious in women than it is in men, but we find ourselves, we wake up one day and we look around and we're like, how did we even get here? I took this job or I got promoted because other people thought I'd be good at it. And I'm guilty of this too. And I fought my own internal compass or my internal guidance system surfacing me a different idea and a different pursuit, because I didn't want to disappoint. I didn't want to buck the system. And they saw something in me that maybe I didn't see for myself. And I love the way you surface that, because I think that's going to give permission to do that level of self-exploration and trusting if your internal guidance system, or I like to call it like a stirring, if you're sensing something that needs to come to you, it is your soul informing you of something you need to look at. It is not just an intellectual game. It is not just professional attributes. It's looking below the surface and trusting that's information that can inform and guide your decision. And it somehow always comes full circle anyway. It may not be present to you in the moment. It's going to show itself at some point. So the sharper your attunement to that, the better. And I really love that you just revealed that part of yourself in this conversation.
Thank you. And that's so well said, that it's your soul speaking to you and that things will come around. Because I think in part what I've noticed in myself and others is when you're listening for all of this external validation, sometimes it feels successful. Like it's not always a bad thing. You don't always realize that you've made a wrong turn because you're getting attaboys and pats on the back or likes on LinkedIn or Instagram. And so it becomes rather addicting to lean on these crutches. But over time, it does come full circle. And the sooner that you can allow yourself the space and connection to turn inwards, the sooner you can get on a path that feels great to you. And by the way, when you do that, the people in your life who know you and care about you are going to give you that validation and celebration.
Very well said. Well, speaking of path, what's it been like to start a whole new career in the craziness of 2020?
It's been a wild ride so far, and I don't pretend to know exactly, where it is I'm going and what my life is going to look like in 3 months or 6 months or a year. And I'm okay with that. For the first time in my career, that feels good. And as it relates specifically to not just starting in a new field, but starting in coaching, and you're in this line of work too. So I'm curious if you agree with me, but I feel like right now, coaching is needed more than ever. We have the pandemic and social unrest and a political circus, working and schooling from home. I mean, there's just all of these dynamics going on. And I've noticed that one very real repercussion of all of this chaos is people starting to question things in themselves and in their world. They're asking, who am I? Who do I want to be? What is important? What's not important? What have I been tolerating that I don't really want to be tolerating anymore? And I think that there are a lot of people out there for whom 2020 snapped them out of autopilot in a way, or at least caused them to think and reflect and consider making a change that they wouldn't have otherwise. And so I've really loved coaching in this moment in particular, because it's getting to help people get in touch with what's important to them and have the confidence and the clarity to just get after it. And that for me has been really rewarding and fulfilling.
I could not agree more. I'm like nodding my head like a maniac. I liken coaching right now. We are anchors.
Yeah.
And I see the same thing. I see a lot of people asking themselves like, wow, is this it? This is the life I've been sleepwalking through. I have missed a ton. And all of this has been in plain sight. How do I access it? I mean, natural fears and concerns about, well, if I make that change, what's that going to mean? Particularly if you've got a very, very visible role with a lot of responsibility and you're a primary income earner in the family. And there's a lot of dynamics that go to it. But I just simplify by saying in a coaching conversation, you've got an anchor. And if you feel grounded, which I feel is we don't have as experience this year, we feel very rudderless. I just look for anchors in conversations, things that you can see, feel, touch, and know, and giving permission to people to explore. You can explore that external world, but your internal world is crucial. You have to care and feed for it. You have to feed it only the things that matter most. So you have to be very discerning, but your foundation is your inner world. And that's your steady. And that's why I use the term anchor or tree, like anything that feels grounding is the name of the game, regardless of the industry or even regardless of the level. The coaching conversations and the experiences that they're having are very rooting. And it's from those places that really interesting discoveries are happening and people are really expanding their capacity like I've never seen. I've been doing this for almost 16 years. And the transformation I'm observing is really amazing in some outrageously difficult experiences that, we have no playbook for, that we've never seen. So I completely and wholeheartedly agree with what you're saying.
That is awesome. Now I'm nodding furiously. And the analogy of anchor and tree are really beautiful and resonate with me a lot. And I like that you talked about this idea of, people's own foundation. I've found with a lot of my clients and with myself, like this default to helping other people and serving other people and being accountable to what other people need before giving yourself what you need. It's, the overused analogy of putting your own oxygen mask on first, which I haven't heard in quite a while because I haven't been on a plane in a very long time.
Right.
But, people want to make sure that their boss is getting what they need and their team is getting what they need and their kids are getting what they need and all of these other people. And as a coach, I've been happy to be able to remind them to ask themselves what they need and start there.
Mm. Just to that point, one of the more common questions I've been asking, which is sort of surprising because I live in a fairly A-type world with a lot of my clients that are, running multi-million dollar businesses. And I've been asking this question, which is a little outside the box, but the answers have been interesting, which is when you get really quiet, what do you hear? And what I'm noticing is it's slowing down some of the stickier decisions. It's surfacing a lot of emotions and feelings that maybe they never had acknowledgement to. Then it's giving permission to that inner warrior, that inner knowing. And it's giving a pathway that, again, it's been there all along, but now you're giving it permission to surface in a way that really can help inform your decisions. And it's kind of fascinating how it's landing, because I don't know if I would have brought that up 9 months ago. I might have done it over time.
Yeah.
Now bringing it up sooner, it's really surfacing some absolutely fascinating conversations. So
that's awesome. I love it. Yes, listeners, you have our permission and encouragement.
Yes. So here's my last question for you, Marissa.
Yes.
What is it you really want to leave with the listeners?
First of all, thank you all for listening. I hope that part of my story was insightful or helpful to you in some way. What I'd like to leave you with is that now is as good a time as any to have a big dream and go for it. Instead of being your own toughest critic, which many of us are, just see how it feels to be your own biggest cheerleader. Grab the pen, author the life you want, and if I can help in any way, please reach out.
Love it. Grab the pen and author the life. Love it. What a great visual. And what a great way to end the conversation. So Marissa, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. This was a delight.
Such a fun conversation. So insightful. So yeah, Marissa, how maybe even like how Marissa moves or Marissa moves. I don't know. Something's there. But such a pleasure to be in this conversation with you. So I always look for feedback as you're listening to this podcast. If there's something that really resonates or something that really moves you forward, we want to know. So Marissa, be well, and we'll be in touch soon. I hopefully am going to be a part of that strategic networking plan where we reconnect in 60 days.
Yes, you're on it, like it or not.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks to everybody for listening to another episode of Warriors at Work and letting us be a part of your warrior journey. You can ask questions and make suggestions for future topics at jc@jeanniecoomber.com. Connect with me personally on LinkedIn and Instagram, and join us on the Warrior Conversations channel on YouTube and at the Warrior Magic Community page on Facebook. You can find links to all these places on my website, jeanniecoomber.com. And most importantly, be sure to tell friends about us, subscribe, rate, and review us on iTunes, Spreaker, and Spotify. It helps others find the show and puts more warrior magic out into the world.